On the last day of December 2013, in that river town of Herculaneum, Missouri, someone shut off a furnace. It had been burning, in one form or another, since 1892, 120 years, and when it went cold that day, it wasn't just the end of one smelter. It was the end of an entire era for the whole country, and almost nobody noticed. Because Herculaneum was the last primary lead smelter in the United States. Primary meaning the kind that makes lead the original way, out of freshly mined rock, the way we described last episode. When those furnaces went out, America lost its ability to make lead from ore, and it has not made a single ton that way since. So what happened? How does a country that had been smelting its own lead for over 200 years just stop? It came down more or less to one number. Lead is a poison. We've spent whole episodes on what it did to the towns that mined and smelted it. And in 2008, the Environmental Protection Agency looked at how much lead was allowed to drift around in the air we breathe, and they tightened the limit hard. They cut the allowable amount to 1/10 of what it had been, a tenfold tightening overnight. And the Herculaneum smelter, this century-old operation with roasting furnaces, throwing off lead dust and sulfur, simply could not meet it. The company said as much. They were aware of no primary lead smelting process that could hit the new standard at that site. So in a 2010 agreement with the EPA in the state of Missouri, they agreed to stop, not to upgrade, to stop, by the end of 2013. And they did. The furnaces went cold. The EPA estimated the shutdown would cut every single year tens of thousands of tons of pollution out of the air, sulfur dioxide, lead, carbon dioxide, which leaves an obvious question. If America stopped making lead from rock in 2013, then where on earth does all our lead come from now? Because we use more of it than ever. It's in every car battery, every backup power system, every hospital and cell tower and data center. The answer is one of the great quiet success stories in this whole country, and it's hiding in your garage. We don't dig up most of our lead anymore, we recycle it. Specifically, we recycle it out of old batteries. Think about the battery that starts your car. It's a lead acid battery, slabs of lead sitting in acid, and it's been the same basic design for over 100 years. When it finally dies, you drop it off at the auto parts store, and here is the astonishing part. In the United States, those batteries are recycled at a rate of about 99%. 99. That makes the humble car battery the single most recycled consumer product in America, more than aluminum cans, more than cardboard, more than paper. Over 160 million of them every year go back into the loop instead of the landfill. And recycled lead now supplies something like 70% of everything this country uses. The stuff we make new lead out of is old lead. So how do you turn a dead battery back into a working one? It's genuinely clever. Let me walk you through it. First, the batteries are collected, hauled in by the truckload to a recycling smelter. There, they're fed into a hammer mill, a machine that smashes each battery to pieces. Now you've got a slurry of broken junk, chunks of lead, gritty lead paste, shattered plastic, and acid. The trick is separating all of that back out. And they do it with a beautifully simple idea. They dump it all into a big vat of liquid and let physics sort it. Lead is heavy. It sinks straight to the bottom. The plastic from the battery case is light. It floats to the top. And the acid drains off on its own. 3 streams separated by nothing more than weight. Now watch what happens to each one, because this is where it becomes a real loop. The lead, the grids, and the paste goes into a furnace, gets melted down, and is poured into fresh ingots. Some the size of a brick, some weighing nearly a ton. Those ingots ship to battery makers, who melt them right back down into the plates of brand new batteries. The lead that started your car in 2015 might start a different car in 2027. The plastic that floated to the top, it's washed, melted, and squeezed into little pellets, and those pellets are molded into new battery cases. The case comes back as a case. And even the acid gets a second life. It's either cleaned and neutralized into water, or it's chemically converted into something called sodium sulfate, a white powder that ends up in laundry detergent, in glass, in textiles. Battery in, battery out. Plastic to plastic, acid to detergent, lead to lead. It is very nearly a closed circle. And here's the part that brings this whole series home. That closed circle has a Missouri address, because the same company we've been following the entire time, Doe Run, the descendant of old St. Joe Lead, runs one of the largest single-site lead battery recycling plants in the world. It's out in the Ozarks, near a little place called Boss, Missouri. It's called the Buick Resource Recycling Facility, and by Doe Run's own account, it takes in something like 8 million used batteries a year and pulls the lead right back out of them. So sit with the whole arc for a second. For 300 years, Missouri dug lead out of the ground, first from the old lead belt, then from the deep mines of the viburnum trend that are still running today. For 120 of those years, the state smelted that rock into metal on the banks of the Mississippi. And then in 2013, it lit its last primary furnace for the final time. But the lead didn't go anywhere. It never does. That's the strange thing about lead. It doesn't burn up. It doesn't wear out. It just gets used and collected and melted and used again. The same atoms around and around. So today, in the same corner of Missouri, where miners once chased fresh seams of galena a quarter-mile underground, the work has quietly flipped. We don't need to dig up nearly as much new lead, because we're endlessly remelting the lead we already pulled out. A state that spent 3 centuries taking metal out of the earth now spends its days handing the same metal back and forth, battery after battery, forever. We stopped making lead from rock. We just kept making it out of itself. And if these are the kinds of stories that were hiding in your own backyard the whole time, the mine under the forest, the town that ran a volcano, the poison that became a loop, then you already know why this channel exists. Subscribe, and we'll keep digging them up.